Robbie Bell, it's so exciting to talk to you, and thanks for your requesting that we do something like this and record it and share it for others of your experience.
Great. Happy to be here. It's been a very interpersonal challenge of learning new stuff and getting out and putting my work out front. And, with Alan Cook in the area in Mayland, working so that we can get help in promoting the arts here in the area, and especially my own work. It's working with a lot of social media and getting that working so that I can reach a wider audience. So it's been great. I recommend it for everybody.
It's excellent that we really had the honor to work with you and get to combine our two tools along the way. And Jeanne and I, a good complementary team. I say I'm more the inner game and the success coach game and the move forward rapidly and lean into the fight. And Jeanne's more the detailed strategy and complements of that.
And that's exactly how it is. The wild, I call them wild ideas, but the out there ideas do come from you, and I've tried them, and most of them are working. I've had to tweak a few for here and there. And I've got others on my book to do in the new year, working with Jeanne and making social media work. She's brilliant at that. And, ask the questions and she'll come up with an answer somehow. And they've all been working. You just have to jump in with 2 feet and learn to swim.
Well, Robbie, Martin and I have noticed just how successful you've been at implementing things. And I think part of that has been that you've been open-minded to trying new things, whether it's being uncomfortable a bit at starting out your video series or trying Instagram stories or some new things like that. I think your open-mindedness and your flexibility has been important. What would you say to other small business owners that is necessary in order to move forward? What do you think has been, what tip would you give them in terms of how they might approach improving their success?
You've got to try things, even though all of them may not work or may not work for myself or for whatever they're doing. But you've really got to just be ready to reach out and figure out what works for you. Throw it against the wall. If it sticks, great. If not, move on.
What do you think's been the biggest challenge for you with all of this?
Putting myself on film. Mm-hmm. Even as a musician, I hate going back and listening to my performances. And so, once it's out there on the internet, it's there forever. Just don't look at it again.
Yeah, I think that, famous musicians, sometimes after they make their album, they won't listen to it again, and some do. So I think that's such an important point to bring up. But talk about the response you got and how it gave you, in my view, a real competitive advantage by making that journey, by doing the hard work, by putting yourself out there and sharing your story.
My story is really food and pots, because I enjoy the kitchen as much as I enjoy making the pots. And so I've been doing more and more videos on that, how to use the pot once I've made it. And people are, I made Irish coffee on film the other day, and it was my in the top 90%, according to my Instagram numbers. It was the most viewed thing I had made in a while. People look for something more interesting rather than just stayed pot sitting on the counter.
And the other thing I want to state is the importance of taking what I call calculated risk. Everything costs you time and effort. One thing that Jeanne and I really value is when we're asking you to do these things, is it something that won't cost you too much time or too much effort to test out and see how it works? And I think that's critical that we had that conversation, even with the t-shirts. Talk about, that's something you hadn't planned to do. And I'd say that was a pretty good success so far.
It was time for a fresh logo. It just happened all at the right time. I had to move my logo into something that was current. And so a friend of mine did it for me. And then I said, well, let's just go the t-shirt route. Martin said, try it. We came up with an idea for it, and people love it.
Yeah.
I mean, how many t-shirts do you see with dog prints on the back? So
Right.
So it was a great piece.
Well, it's also letting people be part of the artist. And that's what I think, such a critical piece. You're really starting to understand when you're creating art that, there's artist hands in it. And if you take those hands out, you remove part of the gift of the art. You remove a major part of what you're offering the world. Because most artists that at least we've had the chance to work with truly want people to love the experience of having it and owning it and using it. They don't just want, oh, I sold something. It's just the money. And when they start to realize the greater gift is including the artist in the gift as a tool to give to the customer, it sometimes is a good crowbar to get around that. Oh, I don't look right, or I don't like my my voice sounds, or I don't like, oh, I look older, or whatever that story is that most of us have, to put ourselves more in the customer's value added world than our little how do I look world.
Right.
Well, you mentioned your willingness to try out new content, Robbie, and to approach your content in a little bit different ways and to help people to get to know you as an artist. And I did ask you what your biggest challenge is. Do you have a comment on what you think your biggest success is out of some of the new things you've been trying, or some of the different ways you've been branching out during the response to the counseling that you've received through the coronavirus?
Especially doing the videos, people start to get to know who you are, and doing that and doing a lot more of the Instagram stories. Once I figured out how it's really easy once you get out of your head, you got to get out of your head and not think about it too much. For example, Sunday, I set a mug down on a piece of music, and I turned around and I was like, there's a story. And that came up, and it worked all week. I've worked it all week. So you got to get out of your head and just do stuff. And that's what the best thing that's happened. I've just gotten out of my head and just do it, and then go back and look at it.
Which is also what being an artist about, isn't? It's getting out of your head. I mean, it's a full body experience, especially my experience of throwing pots and working in pottery. It's a full experience. So that's what we're asking of people, is to get, like you said, out of your head, over there in their world, more of value, not more of you. People often think, oh, it's just, it's just kind of a selfie type world, a narcissistic thing to do to put myself. No, it's a higher value to the customer. It's a higher value to the experience. And that's what was so exciting, is you were willing to take those risks, get it. And also, I love what you said is, it doesn't matter if you ultimately like it or not. Look at the numbers. You got some of the highest engagement on something you probably a year ago wouldn't have thought to even put out there.
Right. And that's the other thing, is going back. I like numbers. Everything I do, it's kind of a number kind of game. When I bike for the number. Mm-hmm. So I've also learned to start paying attention to those numbers. Like my Google business numbers, my Instagram hit numbers. I start looking at those and see what people are interested in. And I'm finding it's less and less about the production value of the pot, but the use value of the pot pulls more.
We've talked about how we have to turn our thinking towards, where our customer is and what they're thinking and what they're needing and what they're wanting to hear about. I think you've been good about paying attention to that, because now you're seeing that they want to see how to use things and how they can enjoy the pottery that you do. So that's great. I love your Irish coffee idea and your new mug line. And I have to congratulate you, because you have really done such a great job of approaching your content. I always look forward to seeing what you have out there and watching the response and everything. You've been the perfect client in terms of your willingness to try things and your open-mindedness. I hope you continue to see success, because you've been doing such a great job.
And we released our first Spotify playlist last week.
You did.
My gosh.
Yay,
Yep.
I have to look. I didn't look for it.
Yeah, it's there. So there'll be some more of that. And yeah.
Well, you're such a creative person. I know you'll continue to succeed with that and come up with new ideas. And we'll be watching and looking forward to seeing everything that you're doing.
Well, thanks. thanks for your help. I mean, it's been great.
I'll tell you the greatest compliment is we were talking to someone else and they said, well, I just talked to Robbie and asked about how he's doing in the success. And he said, I have only a few words, Martin Brossman and Jeanne,
Yep.
and that's the greatest compliment to hear from someone else. I can't tell you how much that touched us and was really where we want to be. We want to know that you've got measurable results in the real world that lead to more revenue and more fun. I mean, more enjoyable. And that's the piece of it. And you're bringing in more aspects of you. And one more thing I want to mention here is you notice, you woke up and noticed there's a story. And I want to reiterate, that's a muscle you have to develop. So would you talk about that? Because that's one of the hardest things. We don't wake up in our lives looking around. Is there a story here? Oh, there's a story here. There's a story. And it really is mandatory for this success that you start to develop that muscle and practice it.
Right. And doing that, you kind of look at life a little bit differently because things set themselves up. Instead of me staging something, you start looking and finding that it's there already. That's when you use it. That's when you go with it. You just kind of learn that you look around and see what's happening.
What I want to add is it adds quality to life, doesn't it? Because instead of, I mean, I don't know about you, I've got plenty to worry about in my head. I can go rattle around there. But if I'm out in the world looking to capture stories, I'm disrupting some of that personal unnecessary suffering or added suffering that occurs. So that's added value to life itself.
Right. But yeah, most of my really good stuff that I really like is just things that happen. Mm-hmm. It's not something that I've set up or staged or something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's taking the time to notice it and being willing to slow down a moment and see it for what it is rather than kind of getting on to that next thing, right? That we're also busy doing. So it's good that you've been able to do that.
Yeah. And you just learn to look. You got to pay attention.
Which is
It'll
what
happen.
Art is about, isn't it? Learning to look, learning to see, learning to capture, learning to bring something forward. It's just you're making your whole life into a new level of art that you share with the world.
Exactly.
So Robbie, do you have any tips that you'd offer other artists or other small business owners in terms of how to get started or what you think they should do next?
Check with your local, small business, what Alan Cook is just what we call it.
Small Business Center. You got it.
Yeah, the Small Business Center, and see what they have to offer. Because they certainly helped me. They helped, a number of people that I know out there. That's the first thing I would do, and get connected with you two.
Thank you.
Do your homework.
Yeah.
As I've told a couple of people who are working with you now, you got to do your homework or else.
Right.
It doesn't work.
That's right. Yeah, especially if it's a little outside the comfort zone. That's where all the new territory is. Like the important piece. My T-shirt, if your life's boring, it's because you're boring. Life begins outside your comfort zone.
Exactly.
Robbie, would you tell people how they could learn more about you and what you're doing? Because we'll put it all in down below so they can follow, because not only do you do amazing art, but they're going to get more coming forward in the new year.
Right.
And we want you to hold up your mug too and take a drink while you're telling us about you.
So I'm Robbie Bell. I'm the potter at the Speckled Dog Pottery in Bakersville, North Carolina. I work in functional wear. There you go.
Yeah.
And I'm at www.speckleddogpottery.com. You can follow me, the same thing, on Instagram, Facebook, now Spotify, YouTube. So, and I do a lot more than just pots. I mean, I make the pots, but then I also show how to use them, and I have cookbooks and T-shirts and all that kind of stuff.
And you're a musician.
I'm a classical musician, yes.
Man of very many talents.
Oh, well, it keeps me sane.
Well, thank you, Robbie. It was wonderful chatting with you, and we so
Thank you.
joy to work with you.
Appreciate it.
It's been quite rewarding, and we've learned from you just as well, Robbie. So thank you for the
thanks.
experience.
Excellent. Thanks.
Great.